what I'd like to look at is something which was quite appropriate, which I thought when I saw it this morning, and that is the Torah says it speaks about about in Bamidbar, it speaks about all the counting, starts off with the counting of all the different shvatim, and each shevet is counted on its own. As we spoke yesterday, it has its own leaders, and then at the end of all the counting, it tells where all the different machanot go and which tribes go with where, and then it says Eile Pekudei Bnei Yisrael Beit Havatam, Kol Pekudei Machanot Letzivotam, and it says these are the countings of the Jewish people according to their specific machanot, according to their specific encampments, and each one has their own place to go, and the total of all the machanot is 603,550. Then it says, but the Leviim are not counted amongst Bnei Israel as according to what Hashem had commanded it. And then it says that they Vayasu Bnei Israel k'chol asher tzivah Adonai et Moshe kein chanu lediglehem v'chein asu ish l'mishpochtam al beit avotam. And says, and that's how they counted. That's the way they did. They the people did exactly how they were supposed to do and did what and moved on. And then the Torah starts telling us about Bnei Levi. V'adaber Adonai el Moshe lemor hakrevet matei Levi, having excluded Bnei Levi from everything of all the countings. Then it says, now hold on a second, now bring them closer. Then let them come, and Aaron will now serve as the main person. And what are they going to do? They're going to do all the necessary work within the Mishkan, and they're going to guard the Mishkan. And they're the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to ensure that the Mishkan is safe. And then the Torah it goes on to explain that Bnei Israel are not that the Leviim are not included within the countings, but rather, as we said, their job is to be the inner encampment of Bnei Israel. So what happens is you have the Bnei Israel in the four compass directions, each one all grouped together, and then you have the Bnei Levi in the middle of them all. And the Torah wants to understand, why is it that the Bnei Levi are the ones that are in the middle? What do they serve as? And they serve as a shamor, as a mishmeret, something that's going to guard the way things need to be done. As the Torah says, why they come to guard it. What are they guarding? What it's so obviously they kind of serve in a way we can understand it as like the honor guard of the Mishkan. They are the if you've ever been to Buckingham Palace or anywhere where there's a lot of pomp and ceremony, you have these guards around it, and they're the honor guard. They don't really serve a real purpose necessarily, but they're just there to show the kavod of the king, the kavod of in this case the kavod of the Aaron. But the Netziv says no, that's not really the only reason they're there. They're not just there in some type of representative function, but rather they're there to serve the function of guarding two things. They're guarding, on the one hand, the Aaron from the people coming close to it, but at the same time, he explains that they're actually guarding the people from the impact of the Aaron. What does that mean? So we understand that the Aaron is the place which from which the very essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu shines. It is the Hashrat, the place of Hashrat HaShechina, the place where the Shechina really vests within the Jewish people. And if that's the case, the closer one is to the Aaron, the more vulnerable one could say one is. As the Netziv explains, is that we are closer to a person who sins closer to the palace of the king is much more vulnerable than a person who sins far hundreds of miles away, right? Because of the impact that it'll have on the king himself. So too, if a person is not on the correct level, spiritual level, closer to the Aaron, so then it will impact on them. And so therefore what the Leviim serve is this buffer between Bnei Israel and the Aaron, in order that Bnei Israel don't come close so much to the Mishkan in order that they don't get damaged in some way. But then the Netziv tells us something which is really beautiful. And he explains the following. He says, the Mishkan ha'edus hainu koach haTorah. That the Mishkan had the koach of Torah. Hayashomer is Yisrael min nachashim v'akbarim. What the Mishkan did is that it protected the Bnei Israel from nachashim and akbarim, from snakes and scorpions. Kiyadua, as we know, shayuzike eish yotzim min ha'aron. Because what would happen is, it's quite amazing to think about this. What would happen is, the way the Netziv describes it, is that these lines of fire would come out of the Aron. What they would do is they would kill all the Nachashim and Akbarim, all the different the snakes and scorpions that were coming towards Bnei Israel. So it was like lasers. They would be like lasers hitting all the snakes and scorpions as they try to come up to the Jewish people. And that was the power of the Aron. V'ata, and now, says the Torah, Tzivah Hashem shegam ha'Leviim yishmeru Isa mishmeret shel Mishkan ha'edut. Now the Torah says it's not only that they're protecting the Jewish people from not coming so close, but in addition to that, they have to protect the Aron itself. So what's the protection of the Aron? The Aron has to be powered by something. Yes, it is at the end of the day the place that houses the luchot. It's the place that houses, that is the central force of the Jewish people. But it doesn't just exist without the power of Am Yisrael. And what's the power of Am Yisrael? Hainushis asku b'Torah, that the Levium's job as the protection of the or the sustaining of the Aron is she's asku b'Torah, that they should be learning Torah. And through their zchut, then the Jewish people will be guarded. In the same way as as they guard the Aron. And so we see an amazing idea here. And the idea is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sets up a system whereby the enemies that are going to come towards Bnei Israel, they will be destroyed. However, explains the Netziv, that the system only works when it is powered by what? By the learning of Torah. The most powerful spaced thing that we have really is connecting back into the say pre-creation power. The Torah says, so the Zohar says that Histakel HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'oraisa v'ara olma. Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. So what that means is that in the very essence of the Torah is the power that powers the world. Everything is in it, and so therefore we have to learn. So what I just thought when I read that, it's an amazing thing. We have this iron dome which shoots down using lasers all the snakes and scorpions that are sent to us from Gaza and other places. We should all just be well and only have shalom. But where's the power of that coming from? It's not coming only from the technology. And that's so important for us to remember, is that the power of that is coming from us. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu sets the system up, but we have to power the system. And we power the system by our learning, by our davening, by our doing of additional mitzvot. And that's why I think the next pasuk says, Vayasu b'nei Yisrael k'chol asher tzivah Adonai et Moshe kein asu. Bnei Yisrael did, and Moshe told them, kein asu, they did it, because the ma'aseh, the action of Bnei Yisrael, is the thing that's going to ensure that the system continues. And the Ibn Ezra says something which is quite interesting. He says, what does it mean they did it? They did Shelo nagu b'mishkan lo'olam. Bnei Yisrael never touched the Mishkan. Our job is not to touch the Mishkan. Our job is not to tweak the power, the technologies. Our job is to power that. Our job is to ensure that we are doing what we need to ensure that all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has set up is going to be activated, is going to work, because we are doing what we need to do. And that's why I think the Torah is telling us a very relevant and very important lesson of the protection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes not just memela, but it comes from our power. And often we don't realize that it's not about what we need to do. We don't need to sit and watch all the videos. What we need to do is say, okay, what can I do? How can I make things different for the person next to me, make their lives just a little bit better as we go through this difficult time of Am Yisrael again. I spoke to my friend Dan Dyker, who is who's a political analyst in Israel, and he will be speaking to the community. We're just going to set it up after Shavuot. But he said to me, "There's nothing new. It's the same story. It's been going on for years and years and years since the Grand Mufti of Yerushalayim allied himself with the Nazis. It's been going on for years and years and years. So this too, as we say, it shall pass, but its passing should come with the least damage to Am Yisrael, and that comes through the protection that we bring by the learning of Torah, saying of Tehillim, and doing extra good deeds to fill the world with love and kindness. Have a beautiful day, everybody, and Bezrat